This is a test. For the next 60 minutes, this program will be conducting a test of the Facebook Shut This Shit Down system. If we should make some brilliantly funny and spot-on true joke about Facebook and or Mark Zuckerberg, and as they obviously have no sense of humor that we are aware of, some nerd in his mother's basement, working as a subcontractor for Zuckerberg, will alert the boy wonder that we have made some brilliantly funny and spot-on true joke about him and his little social media app that is pretty much turning us into a nation of nitwits. Said nerd will then be instructed to shut that shit down. In the event of an actual shutdown, your screen will go blank, audio will go silent, but you can be assured that there is nothing wrong with your PC, laptop, or other personal device. There will also be no need for you to seek shelter or tune your radio to the emergency broadcast system. We suggest you put Tommy on the turntable, light one up, and enjoy life as it was before Facebook was our reason for living and breathing. This is only a test.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster.
Hello.
The Emperor has been expecting you.
You're gonna get your mind right.
Warning. Common sense incoming.
Alive. It's alive!
I'll alert the media.
We have some bad hombres here, and we're gonna get them out.
Here I come to save the day.
Warning, this contains explicit material suitable for children.
Ridiculous bullshit.
Dignity. Always dignity.
Now to me, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
But you know what? I like you, because you are special.
Want to see me make bubbles with my spit? Sure do. In fact, that's the theme of our show.
Great heavens! What kind of radio show is this?
Some religious officials are referring to this as the opening signs of the impending apocalypse.
This is the Blab.
And the impending apocalypse is impending apocalypse? Yeah, new
I
Metro.
thought you said appendage apocalypse.
New Metro drunk test. Good afternoon, sir. Have you been drinking? No, officer, I haven't. Well, then say impending apocalypse. Welcome to the Blab for your Wednesday, May 29. If your power, the Facebook warning notwithstanding, if that should happen, that's Zuckerberg and his Nazism. If the power if we should suddenly disappear, we're under a thunderstorm watch warning in this particular neck of the woods.
Yes.
And there may be some sudden disappearance. So I'd just like to say to all the folks watching out there and listening right off the bat this evening, and to my family that I've just never given, the attention and time they deserve. If we blow out, it's because the electric company can't handle storms. And, there's that. But we will move ahead with great vigor, as the Kennedy boys used to say years ago, and answer the always philosophical question, who's on first?
Huh.
All right, there's a great little fade there on that one, too. And, one wonders if War and Peace would have been as successful as it was had it been published under its original title, War, What Is It Good For? All right. I want to, real quick, I'm gonna say something that's going to be typically me to get us going here. And
Okay.
then I want to ask you to indulge me for a couple of minutes on something else.
Sure.
And then we'll have a chat.
Sure.
First of all, it's okay that people, it isn't okay, but people don't know the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. We just finished observing Memorial Day, okay? And I think this is me over here.
Oh, I thought it was me.
Many sounds. I got to turn that down. There we go. Damn, we look good.
Technical difficulties already.
Well, the producer,
right out of the gate.
The producer of this show is an idiot. Veterans Day is the day in which we are honoring and appreciating everyone in the military and their families and all who serve our country.
Correct.
Memorial Day is designated to honor those who have given their lives.
Those who have fallen, yes.
More than once I came across, and other people did too, and you don't want to be too snicky picky about this kind of stuff, but at the same time, pay attention, people. One person posted, "Happy Memorial Day!" to all the fallen soldiers. And you just want to go, okay, well, I guess the spirit is willing. But me, and I have to sort of disqualify myself a little bit. I'm so off the chart tired of stupid that I overreact in those situations. But I just, people, pay attention.
How many drinks in were they when they made that post?
Well, no, I don't even blame drunkenness anymore. So there's that. All right, let me offer you this. This is about 3 minutes long. And then I want to chat about it with you. And the reason I put it in so that folks could hear it was because I've told you how impressed I am so far with this fellow Pete Buttigieg.
Yes.
Buttigieg.
I agree. Very impressive.
The mayor of South Bend, Indiana, calls himself Mayor Pete.
Mayor Pete.
Yes, he is the first announced gay candidate for president of the United States, but that doesn't mean a hoot and hell to me.
Hello, sailor.
That's right. And he's just a cool guy. He's got it together.
No, I agree.
This is a
Totally
chunk of either a some kind of rally or interview or speech that he was given, and he was talking about Afghanistan. He served our military in Afghanistan, a couple of tours, and et cetera. He was asked a question about the current state of things and where he'd be coming from, and I just want to play this as a context, and then we can refer. Check it out.
First of all, the fact that an architect of the Iraq War, John Bolton, is even allowed in the Situation Room by a president who claims, falsely of course, that he was against the Iraq War all along. And remember, I'm old enough to remember in 2002, a lot of Democrats lying and saying that they were for the Iraq War even though deep down they knew better because they thought that was required of them politically. And 14 short years later, we got Republicans lying and pretending they were against it all along. And the reason for that, of course, is that we now know what a disaster it was. Now, as I write in the book, I think it would have been no less of a disaster if there actually had been weapons of mass destruction, because he would have used them on us, and we wouldn't have had to be there in the first place to create the situation where he would have used them. But the point is, the next president's got to establish a higher bar for what it will take to deploy military force. And I say this, first of all, as somebody who knows what it means to pack your bags and be deployed on the orders of a U.S. president, and to write a letter and put it where your family can find it. And to know that right now, someone in Afghanistan is doing the same thing that I was doing. And I thought I was one of the last people turning out the lights 5 years ago. But more than that, some other person is in uniform in East Africa right now, based on the same congressional act that authorized the Afghanistan war after 9/11. I mean, that's how loose we've gotten with authorizations for what is amounted to a forever war. And to see some of the same people that got us into Iraq now trying to get us, apparently, to escalate us to Iran, and the very real possibility, given the dysfunction of this administration, that this is a situation that the president himself does not fully control, or that could get to where the president cannot control it, is terrifying, especially when you consider the fact that this White House and this administration has not hesitated to use troops as props. We saw it in the border. We saw the saber rattling around Venezuela. It's awful over there, but the same guy, by the way, John Bolton, right, using a notepad to kind of casually hint that we might send troops there. And when you were an officer responsible for enlisted people, or even just when you see, we just had a ceremony in South Bend to honor high school students who are getting ready to serve. And you look them in the eye and you think that, look, they don't necessarily enlist saying, I hope I never get deployed. That's not what, sometimes this idea that deployments by their nature make victims of members of the military. It's not that. You join and you're ready to deploy if necessary. That's the whole idea of getting in, is that you're there if America needs you. But America better not call you to do that if it's not necessary, because it is not a show and it's not a game.
So then, when should the United States send troops overseas? Is it, I mean, obviously it's when our national security.
It's when there's a core life or death interest in the homeland where our security is at stake, or when it is a legitimate part of an international action, when, for example, an ally is attacked. And in both of those cases, even then, when there is no alternative.
There's the key phrase for me, the whole thing right there, when there's no alternative.
Right.
And I didn't share that by way of going off into a discussion about our involvement in Afghanistan and getting into all that deep stuff. I just want to say, first of all, that, and I want to spend a lot of time getting to know what all the candidates across all the political spectrums have to say. But this guy is like fresh air. I was teasing my wife in a different context the other night when I said, I was mentioning him, not this particular speech, but the way he presents himself. He's 37 years old, by the way. When I was 37 years old, I just found out I had 10 toes. Okay.
Well.
And this is how hip this guy is.
Wait a minute.
And he's articulate and
I've
all
got 10 toes.
10 toes. And then some. And there's that. But I said to her, I said, the sensation I have right now, and I want to hear what the rest of what he has to say and make as informed a decision as I can come next year. But I want to, it's like when you're in an outhouse and you're used to the smell of shit, and all of a sudden, somehow, the smell of fresh ocean air comes and hits you in the face. You don't realize that the smell of shit has become normalized for you. And you go, and that's where the old expression, breath of fresh air, comes from.
Right.
But this guy is, I said something the other day. I said, integrity, like sunlight, is the best disinfectant, the old expression. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm all nutty for Pete and I've gone off the deep end and this is my guy, because that's the antithesis of what I'm always preaching about. Get informed, learn what they all have to say.
Yeah.
But I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm hearing. And I like what he represents, because I have yet to see him say or do anything that comes off as opportunistic or snarky and boy, if ever there was a time in the timeline when we need him and people like that approaching it from that direction. That's the thing. This is the tone and timbre of what a presidential campaign and election should be in this country, not the carnival bullshit that I'm afraid,
that it's become. Yeah.
Well, and that I'm afraid is going to get sucked right back into.
Well, I mean, even when you watch the old debate footage from Reagan or Bush Senior from that era, I mean, there was no name calling and insulting. I mean, they each presented their viewpoint, and
yeah.
I mean, it's about as bad a name calling is when they said, "You're no John F. Kennedy." You know what I mean? That was about as bad as it got.
And those were the clever catchphrases.
Yes.
But there was, and this is when you and I have our off-camera private discussions about things, and we get into the thing with Trump. I still have, and it's my failing because it's really, really hard to get to the core of what bothers me and articulate it in a way that doesn't sound like I'm just being either partisan or just overreacting. Because it's a hard thing to describe. There's an integrity that's been missing. There's an integrity this man doesn't. I'm not talking about Buttigieg. I'm talking about Trump.
Right.
There's an integrity he doesn't have. He just doesn't have it. And if he has it somewhere, he hasn't shown it to anybody, and he doesn't use it. He goes exactly in the opposite direction. And that matters to me. And it upsets me and bothers me intellectually that it doesn't matter to more people, because it's important. It's one of those kinds of things that it's not a bill that gets somebody better rights to something that's concrete in signs, but it's one of those things in the thread, and I don't want to get too philosophical, but it's in the thread of our country and our being and our humanity and all those things.
No, Scott, I totally get that. A lot of Americans are, again, I pointed this out, you watch a horrific mass murdering in Africa while you're eating dinner and you're like, oh, that's a shame. It doesn't really affect me past the salt. I mean, it's almost like the integrity doesn't matter if it doesn't really affect the person.
Well, that dovetails, interestingly enough, into a note I made for myself, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, and when I was doing the Sunday night show on talk radio, I did an entire 3-hour show one night under one theme, and the theme was, I called it The New Deadly Sin in America, Arrogance.
Right.
And we've touched on that in previous podcasts here. Here's the new thing. The world, the other countries of the world, the other free nations and the other competitive nations are getting out in front of America. China, Japan, all those, they're getting out in front of America. And here's part of the reason why. Trump is capitalizing on that, but he's not the reason why, okay? And I was reminded when I made a note to talk about this tonight a little bit. was a wonderful line in Gone with the Wind. Early on, when Rhett Butler is hanging out with the guys during the barbecue, and they're inside the thing having their brandy and their cigars, and they're talking war talk, and they're being manly and going back and forth. And all the Southern boys talking about, yeah, we're going to lick them Yankees. Yeah, we're going to lick them Yankees. And Rhett Butler's just standing off to the side not saying anything. And Mr. O'Hara says, well, Mr. Butler, you're from Savannah Way. You've got some insight and input. What do you have to say? And he walks up, and basically what the line he says is, well, I think that a lot of people in the South are going to be surprised the way this is going to turn out, because in the line in the movie is, all the South has going for it is cotton and slaves and arrogance.
Right.
Because the North had factories and ships and weapons. And,
right.
And I think about that. And it makes me think, you know what? Don't worry about measles. Don't even worry about the vaccinations, because it's ignorance, and ignorance that breeds the arrogance that's going to kill us. If we don't get back to, or have someone start leading us back to, in that direction, and get away from where this thing is headed.
I'm glad you went there, because I was wondering, I don't know nothing about birth of no babies, what that had to do with anything. So I was really confused there for a few seconds.
I just say the happy cap of Butler, but I just don't know
nothing about birth of no babies.
It's a classic moment, and that dovetails into the Memorial Day thing with Facebook was full of, the airwaves were full of people paying tribute, and rightly so, to the families and to those who have given their lives in service to our country. But, or I should say, nothing conflicts me more in that genre than the flag waving that goes on at times like this, and especially in the environment that we're in right now. And here's the reason why. I went with my gut reaction that day when I saw the 50th picture of the flag waving and the Memorial Day tributes and all the rest of that stuff. And I was feeling a little editorial, as I'm wont to feel from time to time. And I'm quoting myself. This is what I threw up there. I said this, quoting me: the most sincere way and genuine way to honor those who gave their lives in service to this country is to honor those who served this country and survived, only to find out there's no food. They have no place to live. They don't have a coat when it's cold. They don't have shoes. They don't have health care. All the flag waving in the world is not going to generate a single BTU of heat on a freezing cold sidewalk grate. # shame doesn't begin to fucking touch it.
I agree. The way that we treat our veterans is despicable. And that goes from, and it's been that way. I mean, it's been that way for years.
Rumbling thunder.
It's rumbling and thundering.
God's agreeing with it.
But I mean, you have vets killing themselves now, committing suicide at the VA.
But here's the place where, but here's the place where, and I'm again, I start these things, and I don't intend to keep us wandering constantly down this same highway towards, but Trump this, Trump that. But what
it was pre-Trump. Well, Scott, you know that.
Yes, thank you. But here's the thing. That argument doesn't work for me. It didn't work for me to begin with. It doesn't work for me almost 3 years later. Here's why. If you take his personality out of the equation, which you can't, but if you did, well, he was going to be different.
Well,
he was going to be the guy to get it done. He was going to do the terrific things, the best things, the most things. It was bullshit then. It's bullshit now. And as I've said before, the greater issue, the greater problem is, I don't think he knows how. Because he doesn't know how to game the system. He doesn't know how to work the system. All he knows how to do is self-aggrandize and keep himself from getting into serious trouble. That's not, and no matter who he would be, okay, that's not doing us any good.
I don't know if he doesn't necessarily know how to do it. I don't think he necessarily knows how to navigate the waters to do it.
What's the difference? If you can't do it, you can't do it.
Well, if you can't do it, you can't do it. That the end result is the same, but
big tree blow there.
There is a difference. We're going to die, everybody.
I got my hands on electrical equipment. If you see me go like this, it's like never mind.
But yes.
All right, and
the end result's the same. Yeah. You're right about that.
And I know what that sounds like. It sounds like, okay, here goes Scott again ranting on how much he hates Donald Trump. Yeah, but no. It's not that. It's an abstract. There's a thing at the core of that. It's the tumor that I hate, and it's the tumor that's being celebrated, not eliminated.
Well, yeah.
Not irradiated. All right, let's on that spirited note, let's do something positive and answer the question that I think you would like to answer tonight. Yes, by golly, It's about killing things.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
All right, oh chef of the future, what's going on in your brain this week?
Hello there. Apparently, the numbers, the homicide numbers came out in Washington, D.C., and they're staggering.
Staggering low or staggering high?
Staggeringly high. There's a 30% increase in homicides in D.C. year to date from last year. But that's tiny. There's a section called Ward 7. I guess it's in the northeastern section.
Yeah.
Homicides are up 300%, which means they're just like randomly killing people for no good reason or
well, a lot of
good
people,
reason.
a lot of people in that area don't have cable, and they don't have anything to do with their evenings. So
But here, you know how everybody talked about Chicago being like murder capital, and
I thought it was
especially
Detroit.
Well, Detroit too, but Chicago was, and they were pointing when Obama was in office.
Baltimore, just over the bay.
When Obama was in office, because he was from Chicago, they always pointed out like how come he couldn't clean up his own town. You know, it was all bullshit. It was bullshit. Yeah,
by that logic, Mar-a-Lago should be there.
Yeah, but it was all bullshit that they were trying to pull on him. But Chicago has actually seen a 30% drop in the murder rate year to date, and shootings are down 17% in Chicago. So. Probably Chicago.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Analyst, what is the why? Why are murders? Why is homicides up 30% in D.C.?
You know what? I have no idea. I would think maybe gang related, because Ward 7 is
and you're talking
questionable.
You're talking homicide, not suicide.
No, homicide.
Okay.
Homicide.
Because if I was in D.C. and what was going on over there, I'd kill myself too.
Oh Lord, here we go. Woe is Scott. But no, seriously, I don't know what's wrong with people. Why are we killing each other?
Hi, have we met? Let me tell you what's wrong with people. I have a minute or two. I can get you. I don't know. Why Washington in particular?
And that's what I'm.
I don't know. And you know what? Here's the thing that's another crazy thing that we need to get rid of somehow. I'm not sure there's a way to put the cat back on the bottle. Fake news.
Yes,
this has become and I don't mean
literally
fake news. I mean that's become the rabbit hole thing that throws everything else off kilter, because we have to in life we have to have some center of reality and center of fact and truth in order to be able to function. Without it, big old lightning bolt.
Yeah, I just saw that.
We can't function. This business of anything you hear that you don't want to hear. And I mean you rhetorically.
Right.
Don't want to hear or don't want to believe. Fake news. Another reason why, Donald, knock it off. Stop that shit, okay? Because you're not helping. You're making it worse with that. You're feeding that fire. It's time to say, there are certain things we simply have to believe. Facts are facts. Truths are truths. Lies are lies.
Yes.
Never the twain shall meet.
Well, here's part of the and the news networks actually are a lot to blame for that, Scott.
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah, because it's all of them are op-ed pieces now. They're not giving the news like Walter Cronkite.
Or Cronkite.
Or Cronkite. I'm scared of the storm. But I do.
We'll be talking about Dave's drug problem a little later in the show.
But, if you watch one network, it's pro-Trump, anti-Trump. Nobody just gives the news. Like, all right, this is what happened. Here's the numbers if numbers are related.
BBC America does a pretty good job.
Well, they're not in a... Well, yeah. I find Bloomberg is actually... Because it's all financial related.
I'm only throwing that shoe in front of your bicycle so that you will not do what you just did, which was to massively generalize that nobody tells... This is contributing to that mentality. That's not true. Just as it's not true that all lawyers are scumballs and all car dealers are scuzzy. All is not correct. There are honorable people working in journalism who have integrity, whose purpose is to try to get to the facts, to be able to share facts with people and the truth. The thing is, though, and this arrogance goes with laziness, you got to do your homework now.
Right.
You've got to, and America is not going in the direction of let's do more homework and get our facts. America is getting lazier and lazier as time goes on, and there's the other rest of that.
Well, most people get their news from their Facebook feed that already supports their opinion. You see what I mean?
And it was the New Age potentate and political pundit Paul Simon who put it best when he said, "A man hears what he wants to hear,
yes,
and disregards
the rest."
All right. Well, if you have, if anybody has any inside information on why Washington D.C. is the murder capital of the country now, then I would be, we would be delighted to have you offer that up. We're
getting a lot of activity on the feed.
There we go. Let me.
Cody's on fire today.
Cody, all right, he wants to be a co-host. Audition time.
Audition time.
Good to hear from you, Cody. We're streaming live on Facebook, and if you're not watching the show live, and we talk about this every week, we knew that 7 o'clock on a weeknight, especially as we move into summertime, hey, you want to be beaching and outdoors and cutting grass and crap, you're not going to come in and watch Facebook Live with these two yammer guys going at each other. But we're getting some nice follow-through on the rebroadcast, which this will appear on the Blab page on Facebook. We also post it to our YouTube channel so that when it's finished, so you can watch it at your leisure. It's on demand. I'm talking to the camera a lot today. Nice.
On demand.
Because I want people to feel like it's not just you and I yammer.
Oh, okay.
That we want to yammer at them as well. As
I just enjoy looking deep in your eyes.
I know you do. and the check was late again this week. All right, here's the thing now. Speaking of Donald, Kim Jong-un said something disparaging about Joe Biden. He called him a low IQ individual or something. Donald, psychologically incapable of keeping his mouth shut and staying out of things, jumped on and said, I agree with that, or I was right, or whatever.
Yeah, I think he just said, I agree.
Okay, well, that was bad enough.
Right.
Okay. Then he added the phrase that pays, another one of those things that makes me want to, climb to the building with a telescopic sight. Just kidding, Secret Service. Donald, quote, I'm a very stable genius. That phrase that, all right, first of all, let me just offer you this. Real geniuses know, without having to be told, you can't quantify stable. It's like pregnant. There's no such thing as very stable. Right. You're either stable or you're not. You're either pregnant or you're not. So it takes a moron to say, I'm very stable in the beginning. But that's neither here nor there. There is, of course, batshit crazy, but we've known that since November of 2016. But that's another issue. When I heard that phrase, I couldn't help, and just because I have a music background, you have a music background, I couldn't help but get hung up because I couldn't get it out of my head. The Gilbert and Sullivan, HMS Pinafore, I am the very model of a modern major general.
Right.
And I sat for 5 minutes and thought this would be fun, and I thought, man, I don't want to do all that work because that's a lot of lyric and et cetera. And I already did a version of that actually a couple of weeks ago with the candidate thing. That's what that music was. I am the very model of, okay. Well, son of a gun, somebody actually put it together, and guess what? I found it. So we're going to take a little baby break, and while we do that, the opportunity for you to hear what was in my head and making me crazy every time I hear Donald yammer this, I am a very stable genius crap, and we'll be right back.
I'm a very stable genius.
He is the very model of a very stable genius. Of all the U.S. presidents, he is the Mussoliniest. He learned a lot of things according to his Wikipedia and demonstrates his ample intellect on social media. When people are in need, he is the best at making fun of them. He knows 11 words, although he can't spell even one of them. An overly flamboyant, orange, autocratic, scuzzy man who's undermining everything Obama did because he can. He's undermining everything Obama did because he can. He's undermining everything Obama did because he can. He's overly flamboyant and an autocratic, scuzzy orange man.
I'm a very stable genius.
He's firmly resolute, but how he thinks and feels and talks depends on any of the crap he may have heard that day on Fox and Friends. And though his brain is smaller than his tiny little penis, he is the very model of a very stable genius. Although his brain is smaller than his tiny little penis, he is the very model of a very stable genius.
I am doing a great job, that I can tell you.
He's very good at pushing all the bullshit that he's peddling, but won't concern himself with matters such as Russian meddling. His campaign manager's in jail on charges that are felony, and no one really cares about him less than his wife Melanie. Sorry, Mulaney. He's really great with children when it comes to immigration. He thinks he's making progress with denuclearization. He's only hated from Seattle to the Carolinas and likes to greet his lady friends by grabbing their vaginas. He likes to greet his lady friends by grabbing their vaginas. He likes to greet his lady friends by grabbing their vaginas. He likes to greet his lady friends by grabbing their vaginas. Queen Elizabeth did not see that coming. He's certainly proficient at hijacking an election. At NATO, he is not afraid of not taking direction. Aside from all his ignorance, the chaos and sapenius, he is the very model of a very stable genius.
I would say, the highest level of special.
He's always been a pro at things like violating protocols and reproducing other egotistical Neanderthals. To all our greatest allies, he decides to say, get out of here, while doing all he can to satisfy his daddy Vladimir. There's no one as accomplished in the art of the distraction. Of anything that's factual, he orders a retraction. When greeting foreign leaders, he prefers the pomp and circumstance, then vomits verbal diarrhea to satisfy his sycophants. There never was a military draft he couldn't dodge, and he is excellent at advocating racist and misogyny. He likes to make up stories with convenient exclusion of topics that he finds make him feel threatened, like collusion. He expertly persuades his base that Mueller's hunting for a witch instead of their own president, who's obviously Putin's bitch. He calls reporters fake and says the Democrats are sour grapes, then lies awake at night and thinks about those Russian hippie chicks. He lies awake at night and thinks about those Russian hippie chicks. He lies awake at night and thinks about those Russian hippie chicks. He lies awake at night and thinks about those Russian hippie chicks. Oh, never has there been a stable genius as smart as he. And if you don't believe me, you can just ask Sarah Huckabee. And though his brain is smaller than his tiny little penis, he is the very model of a very stable genius. His brain is smaller than his tiny little penis, he is the very model of a very stable...
A very stable genius.
Whatever, girl.
I got to tell you something. That guy, first of all, deserves, in my humble gets the applause because, yes,
that was long.
He clearly has a lot of time on his hands, but
that was long.
It was.
It was exhausting. Really,
it was yes. But you know, that's very appropriate, poetically speaking. It is actually very appropriate.
Very exhausting.
All right. Well, in that spirit, let's move along to something brisk and intelligent. Kind of one of those moments where we say, "Hey, we're just two guys sitting here, talking." Topic that I thought I'd try. Well, no, we're it's two guys talking.
Okay.
We're men. We're manly men.
Talking about men.
Well, the ladies get a chance. I want this is an equal opportunity program. I want women to know that we've got their backs and not just their vaginas.
That was my favorite line, actually.
I saw you perk up at the moment that you heard that one.
Actually, I'm going to file this under "It's About Time." Okay, and with Memorial Day just being
memorialized
last weekend, although she wasn't killed, her husband was. Patricia Warner, she's 98, was recognized with a Congressional Gold Medal this week.
Sorry.
During the war, Warner was listed as a secretary in Spain, but her real job was working for the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which predated the CIA.
That's right.
Her true assignment was to communicate with the French underground in order to get downed American pilots out of the Nazi-occupied country of Spain. So Warner said she joined the OSS as a way of avenging the death of her husband, who was killed during the early days of the war while serving aboard the USS Duncan. I just say good for her and thank you for all that she did, but she's 98. Why wait till now? That she should have been awarded something long before this.
Well, okay. Better late than never.
Better late than
answer
never.
Your
but,
rhetorical question. But second of all, you're a young guy yet. Let me tell you a little something about age. There's a perspective thing. When I was 20, I thought 40 was old. And I know you're old enough now where you've experienced a little.
I'm old.
Yeah, well, relatively speaking. But again,
I've lived dog years, Scott.
It's the best way to put that is the story. I think it was Glenn Fry, the late Glenn Fry of Eagles. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't Henley, because it was kind of clever. And Henley's the kind of guy that Don Henley strikes me as the kind of guy who's like he's like me with drumming talent and a lot of money.
There you go.
He's kind of a what is it you called me once? A malcontent.
A malcontent is what you are. Yes.
And I responded by saying, no, I'm a dissatisfaction enthusiast. All right, there's a difference. But Glenn Fry was asked when he turned 40. Many years ago in an interview, one of the inane rock interviewers said, well, you're part of that generation. 14er fight, rock on, talking about my generation. Now you're 40 years old. How do you feel about it? And Glenn Fry said, well, I got to tell you. He said, now that I'm here, he said, 40 is really the best age to be. And the interviewer said, why is that? And Glenn Fry said, because the younger women look just as good to me as they always did. And the older women, they don't look so old to me now. All right. It's kind of like when you're 50, you think,
right.
Wow, 60's not so old when you're 67. So that's kind of a long-winded way of getting around to 98. Why not?
Yeah, I just thought, well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Patricia.
You get the applause too, Patricia.
Yes, Patricia was awesome.
In fact, I'm trying to think if I had anything. Oh, our special guest analyst, of course.
Denny Crane.
Who's with us each and every week. Hearing as I've gotten into Boston Legal. I did not watch the program when it was on the first time, and we've been binge watching it on, I think, Netflix now. Very, very well done.
Okay.
I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan, the guy that did West Wing and all those shows.
Mm-hmm.
David E. Kelly is kind of the dark comedy version of Aaron Sorkin. David E. Kelly created Ally McBeal.
Right.
And several other shows of...
Yeah, Julie really liked Ally McBeal.
The Practice, which was, I think Boston Legal was a spinoff from The Practice. James Spader, who is, just... I've even adopted James Spader's Raymond Reddington hairstyle
there you
here
go.
in the summertime.
Anyway. I loved Lucy Liu. So that's
there
why I watched along with Julie, pretended to be interested in the show, but I liked Lucy Liu.
But William Shatner deserved like 62 Emmys.
Denny Crane.
Because he is who he is. All right, I got 55% of people polled don't want Disney remakes. And that's the new thing now. They're remaking the original Aladdin version 16 and all that. 55% of people don't want the Disney remakes to be changed or adjusted to reflect the dreaded political correctness.
Yes. God, political correctness kills me.
Yeah.
It kills me. It really does.
Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I have no problem with that. And I'm going to have to come up with some kind of sound effect, maybe a sort of a crowd doing like that, when I, who have been constantly and perpetually labeled as the crazy liberal guy who just won't shut the fuck up about all that liberal progressive bullshit. I resent the labeling in the first place because it's an intellectual insult. But the truth is I don't feel that way about everything. And this is one of those things.
You've got a lot of conservative views, Scott. You really do.
We all do. And we all have liberal views. This gets into that whole thing with such a waste of time and energy to do it. And why is there no ship searching for intelligent life stopping by to say hi on Earth? Because
they may have stopped by yesterday. So
the Navy.
The Navy thing, yes.
So I say no PC. Just common sense and common courtesy, and this I'm just riffing here, but the same thing with these statues.
Oh.
Okay. First time that crap started, here's what I said when somebody asked me, "What do you think about it?" I said, "I think it's history. I think it's like let's take all references to Auschwitz and Buchenwald out of history books." I'm being sarcastic.
Right.
Of course not. Because we need to know who we've been. We need to know what's happened. We need to know what's been good and great and gracious, and we need to know just how low human beings have gone and can go.
Yes, because history will repeat itself.
Unless it's doomed to be.
Yes, and that's crazy. Yeah, I did you see where Jimmy Kimmel did he took a classic episode of the Jeffersons and a classic episode of
I watched them.
All in the Family? Were they pretty good? He said he was having issues with the PC-ness, but he was trying to just keep the scripts where they were.
No, those were the original scripts.
Yeah,
those actors did the original scripts of those two episodes, that episode of The Jeffersons and that episode of All in the Family that aired in like 1970 and 1971. They didn't change a word. So it was done. I watched them, DVR'd them, and I watched them later. And I grew up watching that stuff.
Right.
Okay. I was 20. How old was I? I was 20 years old in 1971.
All right.
So I was old enough to be hip to what was going on.
Yeah, I was like 7.
Yeah. Well, you're just a kid. I found it, and only because I had more exposure to it the first time around, and the characters and the acting of Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton and those folks in All in the Family, and Sherman Hemsley and Louise, I can't think of her name. That's Louise Jefferson. Isabel Sanford.
Isabel Sanford, yeah.
They are those people.
Right.
Woody Harrelson as Archie Bunker. When Marissa Tomei was Edith Bunker, when I first heard that casting, I thought, I don't know. And I don't know how George Costanza would feel about it, because what a big fan he was of Marissa. She did a wonderful job, but it was more caricature.
Right.
She did it. I thought maybe she'd play it a little more contemporary. I didn't realize they were going to be doing the literal scripts from that period.
Right.
So, Archie, here's your beer.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. The intent was good, and those shows wouldn't get past first base now unless they were turned into reality shows.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Then because any network, any producer that will greenlight crap like Mama June and the Atlanta hip hop and all that other stuff. And I know the problem with being my age is that when I have a legitimate bitch about that kind of stuff, it gets written off to, well, you're just an old guy now.
It's a crotchety old guy.
No, I'm hip and groovy. I don't, I stay with the trend and the times.
Hip and groovy. I like that.
Peace and love. Love and peace.
I do like that. Yeah.
Although one wonders whether the book would have been as successful had it been published under its riddle title. A riddle title, Love and Peace. What is it good for? So I liked what they did.
Right.
I liked the spirit in which they did it.
Right.
It just came off a little bit to me like community
Yeah,
theater.
Kimmel was on Stern talking about,
yeah, why not? And the lessons are valid.
Yeah.
They work very well. All right. There's one other. What do you got?
I was going to say, but can you imagine somebody like a Don Rickles trying to start a career now with the way that his shows were? Where he just walked out and randomly insulted everybody?
Maybe. Rickles is a unique example, because if you go back and you look at Rickles' stuff, it wasn't racially or sexually or and he brushed up against it every now and then.
He would, especially on the Dean Martin roast. He really did. Yeah.
But I saw a replay, a video not long of a bit of an appearance he made at Ronald Reagan's initial inauguration.
Yeah,
and he was the insult comic, but it was insulting. Love the shoes.
Yeah,
and rolling his eyes as he's walking away, that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of a unique situation. But no, and I don't really know. I really am not sure where I've thought about this, not at length, because I've got golf to play. But I've wondered where this whole political correctness crap comes from in the first place.
I don't know.
I mean, if it's an attempt to inject more graciousness into our culture, I think that's the wrong way to go about it and the wrong mentality. And I also think, and my suspicious nature, caught in a trap, thinks that it has to do with more, it's just, hey, what are we going to be offended by today? That's the thing that a lot of people throw out, and they say, well, everybody's being offended. But I think it's just...
it's the victim mentality.
Well,
I'm offended. I'm a victim.
Combined with what I'm talking about again, when I go back to my arrogance thing, it's this, I think America's bored. I think there's too damn much boredom in this country. We've talked about arrogance and conceit and racism and all those things, the isms. I think boredom doesn't get talked about enough. I think and this ties back to my dealio about the value system, because there hasn't been any sense of self-sacrifice for so many years. But along with having relative okayness in a culture comes, say it with me, boredom.
Boredom, right? Yeah.
So what do we do to stir shit up? Well, we start griping about every little thing. We go look. It's what I call
we look for things. Yeah.
Psychological busy work. When you can't fix the things that really need to be fixed in any situation, you go looking for things you can fix, whether they need fixing or not. We need to stop talking about things like this, and let's make placards and let's have parades. And what the hell? You got people dying on the sidewalks because they don't have enough to eat. Well, I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But I can stop people from saying, Negro instead.
Or what was it? That's what darkies are for.
Looking for the excuses.
Yeah, it's just everybody's offended by everything.
All right, so we haven't talked about Donald in explicitly for a while. Let me just tie the Donald bow up for the night by doing this, because I talked to somebody about this, and I wrote a piece real briefly. Maureen Dowd is a columnist for the New York Times. She's been writing for years. She's very articulate. She's very insightful. I think she's balanced. She tends to lean a little left, but again, enough of that. She wrote another piece about Trump this past week based on whatever he did or said on that particular day, and slanted it in the direction of who he is, what he does, and how he behaves himself or doesn't. It was very well written. When I finished reading it, and a lot of people were jumping on it saying, this is so true, this is so correct, this is so right. And I said, yeah, but then I threw in my 2 cents, and here's what I said. I'm paraphrasing what I posted. Yes, it was. But at the end of the day, it was just one more article describing what we already know about this guy, okay, and what he does and how he behaves and how he presents himself and all those things. And I'm guilty of that. It's hard not to get sucked into that whirlpool of wanting to respond intellectually, psychologically to that kind of behavior. But at the end of the day, once again, we already know that. It's like saying, wow, You know, house is on fire. It is. The house is on fire. Well, the house is really burning, isn't it? Yeah, the house is really burning like some bitch. Well, hey, you know what? That house is on fire. And, okay, so I thought, when it comes to Donald, I'm always looking for ways to paint the picture that conveys the point and tries to provoke people into at least thinking about it. And I realize, and I hate the idea of dumbing things down. I don't want to have to do that. But I think there's a line sometimes between dumbing things down and putting it in a way that people can understand it. And that brings us to Uncle SCP's Parable Playhouse tonight, okay?
Parable Playhouse.
And I want to play this for you. We're going to do a little intermission thing here. And while we do, you're just going to give this a listen, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I wrote this out, and I went, yeah, this is exactly what I've been trying to say about what needs to happen here in terms of people dealing with things and not just going over and rehashing and rehashing and rehashing and rehashing and rehashing and rehashing. What I said was that, well, let me just put it this way. I'll play it for you and let it speak for itself. For those who wear red caps and are not all that, let's just say the non-Rhodes scholars who may be experiencing this particular program, in the parable, Donald Trump is the tick. Now, that's really all you need to know. The rest of you will get it. Check it out.
Is that a tick?
Yeah, pretty sure that's a tick.
Are you sure that's a tick?
Well, it sure looks and acts like a tick. What do you think?
I think it's a tick.
Yeah, I think it's a tick. In fact, I'm just going to actually say that's a tick.
It is. You're right. It's a tick.
I know, right? And a pretty big tick.
It is pretty big, and it's really sucking a lot of blood.
You know, I noticed that too. A lot of blood.
Well, that's what ticks do, you know.
I know, and boy, that sure is a tick.
It is. It totally is a tick.
Yeah, big tick, too. And mean.
I was just thinking that. A big and mean tick.
Oh, it's a totally big and mean tick.
Probably the biggest and meanest tick I've ever seen.
Agreed. Biggest and meanest.
Well, ticks are just naturally mean, you know.
They are. By the way, you're looking a little pale.
Oh, that's because the tick is sucking me dry.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Doesn't that hurt?
It does hurt. But, well, that's what ticks do, and...
Yeah, I know. It's a tick. Dude, you're getting really pale.
Well, tick, you know, big and mean.
Biggest I've ever seen, and meanest.
Yeah, big, mean, tick.
Hey, can you hear me? Are you okay?
What's the matter with him?
I think he's dead.
Well, there's your problem. See?
See what?
That tick.
Yes, it is a tick, isn't it?
It is. Big tick, too.
Music to be written entitled Hail to the Tick. All right. We're streaming live on Facebook, and you'll see the program on YouTube channel, and it's a tick. The question is, what's to do with or about the tick? We don't need to know anymore that it's a tick and that it's sucking the blood. Metaphorically speaking. All right, I want to move on to one other thing, and then do your thing, do your stick thing that you very cleverly pawned off on me this week.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, you did. You know,
you are,
yeah. Okay, but you know, you work.
You're on fire tonight, Scott.
You work 6 jobs, and I don't do shit all day, so it's okay.
You're on fire tonight, Scott.
Well,
I love you, and I let you roll.
I got time. I got time to think of stuff. You know, this is what that's all about. All right, and I'm not going to play the excerpt of this. We talked about China and Japan and other countries getting ahead of the world.
Yes.
A writer in China created a song. It's a battle anthem. It's from an old piece of Chinese music, and it's very arousing, and it's done with a choral. And I thought it was like a Monty Python parody, but it's not. It's about the trade war. And China is gearing up. They're saying, you know, okay, America, if you're going to be that stupid and let your guy be that stupid, then we're going to come after you.
Well, it's not stupid, Scott.
Well, I'm saying they're saying.
Well, that's what they're saying, yeah. But
okay, well, we'll see how that plays out. But the point was that it's like trade war, and the lyric is like trade war. We're going to kick the Yankee imperialists' ass and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, all right, it's only a matter of time before somebody comes right back and says, Donald's probably got Kellyanne or somebody in the staff working on
I don't think she writes music.
Well, she doesn't do anything else, so she may as well do that. And I thought, because this is the American way when we're confronted no matter what the circumstances are. So, again, if I had an excerpt of the Chinese song, I'd play it for you, but it's very rousing. Oh, London, London trade. And it's in it's in Chinese, so you can't understand
Well, I told you they were even, like, blaming the delay of the Game of Thrones final on
Sure.
the U.S. trying to ramp up nationalism over there. So they're
So it's game on.
The machine's working, yeah.
It's game on, sure. But they're rousing with their anthems. And then I found out through a contact that I have in this business that in terms of it's not White House staff, they've actually reached out to somebody who has already written a piece that'll be snapped right back at them because this is America and we don't take shit from other countries, especially China. And so we'll be back and listen to this little excerpt.
Okay.
They called on one of their favorite songwriters, Charlie Harper.
A teenage boy with a spirit inside of a samurai warrior who long ago died. Now he's Shikuru, Shikuru, my, he's a demon samurai. Who's the guy who had to die? Shikuru.
That's right, boy. I tell you what, that just stirred my loins, and makes me want to whatever is involved in joining up so that I can help, fight this thing. I want it to happen.
It'll be resolved, and they'll work out a better tariff program because it's.
Yeah, I want you to write that down and date it. We'll have that conversation when it either happens and I go, my hat's off to you, or I turn it.
No, it'll happen because they realize the tariff terms that were set were when they were an underdeveloped country. Now they're on equal footing, or if not ahead of us.
We'll see. I'm not.
So yeah.
I easily.
You agree with me? Something had to be done.
I easily get misconstrued as being against what's going on once again, and not to wander too far down that path because enough already tonight. But it's like once again, it's not the what, it's the methodology that's implied and done. I think there's ways you don't go into an operating room with a sledgehammer. You go in with a scalpel and a trained team. That's my thing. Okay. Now it's
you
time.
do if they delay the finale of Game of Thrones.
Well. For that, there's no forgiveness. And once again, can we have a show of hands for people who give a rat's ass about Game of Thrones?
I
don't see any hands. All right. It was Dave's turn to pick the stick of the week this week, and he did. Immediately upon me turning him on to this story that I saw, and he went, do you remember Car 54, Where Are You?
Yes.
Okay. You remember there was Gunther Toody and Francis Muldoon.
Wasn't that
Fred Gwynn was
Herman Munster, yeah.
Yeah. Joe E. Ross was the heavyset Gunther Toody. And his little trademark was whenever he heard something or it caught his attention or whatever, ooh, ooh. That's what he did. That's what I got today when I said, hey, have you seen this story about ooh, ooh? There's the stick of the week. And I went, okay, let me put that together for you.
Yes, I did.
So here's the stick of the week. All right, I was going to throw in like something inane like George on my mind, but that was too good for this.
Yes,
turkey.
Yeah. You don't want to waste Ray Charles on that.
Tell me the story about the lady that I told you the story about.
Well, the mayor, Teresa Kennerly.
Yeah.
She told a member of city council that she yanked a resume of a guy named Keith Henry from a group of 4 finalists for the job opening that they had posted. Because he is black and the city isn't ready for this. So apparently not ready for a black employee or a black executive in 2019. That's a little backwards.
No, it's racist.
Well, yeah, obviously, but that's the elephant.
It's racist.
It's backwards too.
It's racist first and then it's backwards.
Yeah. And apparently Henry was talented, qualified for the job. Now, not saying that he should have been given the job. I'm just saying he has to be on equal footing to have the opportunity to get the job.
There's really nothing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's really nothing else that needs to be elaborated on in that scenario other than to say that it's now okay to we again, you and I have talked about this. there will always be hatred in the world. There will always be hatred in this country.
Yes.
There will always be racism and bigotry and prejudice and ignorance because you're talking about a country that's made up of human beings. We're not perfect beings. We're flawed, and our flaws show themselves in many ways. The best that can be done, and in my modest, humble what should be done, is that every effort, good people, okay, decent people, people doing the right thing, make every effort to at least keep the cork in the fucking bottle. That hasn't been going on lately.
Not recently, no.
Another one of those things. That's like, I mean, come on.
But yeah, those people are, like we discussed, they're always going to be there.
But as I've added to that sentence every time you've said it to me, I've said yes, but now they feel validated, endorsed, emboldened, and why shouldn't they?
And as much as, I mean, I know you immediately pointed at Donald, which he has his fair share of the blame. Social media, Mark Zuckerberg, plays a role in that as well.
In what way?
That's the platform that they're using now. Social media, that's how it's all spread, dude. I miss Tom. I miss Tom at MySpace.
Oh, you mean what we talked about before, where the racists didn't know there were other racists, and
now they're all connected.
Well, sure,
yeah,
sure, but when you've got Donald's at the top of the pyramid, there are others in the pyramid who need to be held accountable.
Well, and let me make this perfectly. I do not think that Donald Trump is a racist.
Well,
I don't believe he is.
No, we've had that conversation 100 times too.
He's an opportunist, but not a rapist. Not a racist.
He's not. No, he's. I don't think he's a. Well, I don't know him well enough to know, but I would be willing to bet you he's not a racist. He's not a misogynist. He's a misogynist. He's not a humblist. The only ist he is an opportunist.
Right.
And he will go. I've said this before. If tomorrow morning something happened that turned us into a little time travel thing, and he found out that everyone who voted for him and is inclined to vote for him thinks that black people are the coolest people in the world, he would fire his entire cabinet and get rid of as many Congress people as he could, and replace the entire Supreme Court with as many black people as he could get his hands on, or get access to, because that's that.
Let's clone that Thurgood Marshall.
There you go. So I'm just
But the stick of the week, Teresa Kennerly.
Yeah. Well, let's don't plug her
You
anymore than
bitch.
necessary.
You bitch.
Well, let's not resort to name calling. We have a higher standard than that here. Let's just say that she's a
stupid bitch.
No, I was going to say something classy, like she's a sadly misinformed vagina. Okay, how about that?
Yeah, it's just in today's day and age,
All right, and just for fun and to freak people out, because they're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still watching the same show. We're going to spend we got 4 or 5 minutes here. You know what? Let's do this real quick, because I promised that I wanted to do it. It's I'm going to do. Oh, famous people that we know.
Okay.
Okay, I born to be famous, famous. I born to be famous, famous. I born to be famous, born to be famous.
All right, first of all, the grammar sucks. That's a catchy little thing, but I born to be famous doesn't do anything to broaden the racial lines and et cetera. I mentioned to you earlier today, if not every week, then at least every couple of weeks, you and I have extensive backgrounds in our own individual ways in showbiz, entertainment, music business, stuff like that. We have had our share of famous people, and I thought, you know what, when we wander off the political path, oh, thank God, they're not going to do it. And rightly so. We get tired of it, too. Talk a little bit about that, and I said, for fun, throw out an anecdote about somebody or something that's famous in your life that just we can entertain when we'll go tit for tat for a couple of minutes, and share a story. Did you do your homework and bring a story?
I didn't bring a story, but I can probably think of something.
I had to pick the fucking stick of the week for you, and now all I said was just bring a little musical antidote. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell my story, and it's pretty long.
Tell your story. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I want to hear it. I want to get to know you, buddy.
You know me. You know me. You've heard stories. Yeah.
No, but these people, I want to hear from you. This is our show. It's not just me. Just because I have all the stuff and have to punch all the buttons, this is you.
Okay.
Pick a famous. Come on.
Not even famous.
Just
I did a recording session a couple weeks ago. Actually, no, it's been like 2 months ago.
Okay.
And a guy, a friend of mine hired me, Tony Luke, the cheesesteak guy. Tony Luke cheesesteak. By the way, amazing cheesesteaks in Philly.
Product placement.
Yes, product placement. But Tony called me to do he's a singer, very good singer. And so a friend of mine, Billy, and I, a guitar player, we went up to a home studio. And as we walk in, we're walking up the staircase, and there's gold records on the wall, and there's Grammys on the windowsill. And the guy said, "Hey, my name's Joe Nicola, the engineer who was working everything." So, I go do my drum tracks, and it's a couple takes, and Billy's doing his guitar. So I Google the guy while I'm sitting there, and he's sitting right across from me. And it's like he worked with John Lennon, Bob Dylan, Billy Joel. I mean, It's like the who's who of recording. I was just like, oh my God. And he had some Beatles memorabilia there, like pictures of Paul McCartney with handwritten notes on the walls. And it was just, he had a little 10-inch Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band bass drum, like a replica.
Wow.
And I was like, because I collect Beatles stuff. I was like, oh
Sure.
man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that? He didn't even look up, and he's just like, oh, Sean gave it to me. And he just kept going. And I'm like, Sean Lennon? He's like, yeah. And I'm like,
sure, Sean dropped by after a few minutes at Jiffy Lube.
But no, and he was the most down-to-earth guy I'd ever met. He let us listen to a Billy Joel track that, had never been released. And so it was an amazing night. Hopefully I'll get to go back there and record again sometime. But
now I know that you are like 3 times removed connected to Sean Lennon. And
yes.
There's a Beatle thing right there. You see, that's it.
But it was just like an amazing night. And Billy and I kept looking at each other like, how did we get here? But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right. I appreciate knowing that. And we've gotten to the point where time is a factor. So I'll just throw in real quick. Wayne Newton was my babysitter. Details to come next time we do this. Let's do rim shots.
Okay. Salted?
And this is that part of the show where we just tap it off with a couple of goofball things and hit the rim shots. And I'm especially cognizant at this time of pressing the button I just pressed, which turns the show camera back on so that people hearing the rim shots don't spend the entire segment watching the rim shots title card, which I've forgotten to do more than once. But I think I got it going on.
You're on top of shit tonight, Scott.
Thank you. Because Denny Crane is paying attention to what's going on. All right, we're going to wrap this up because we're already at 8 o'clock. And for those of you waiting for the West Coast feed, we will be breaking a little bit late tonight. So try not to. And see, no power loss.
Yeah, no doom and gloom. We didn't die.
And I know there's probably hundreds of people out there saying, the one night we were hoping there'd be a damn power loss, and there isn't. These guys have kept going for as long as they can.
We hope for power loss every week.
John Voight issued a video this past week, where he praised Trump like insanely and then said, quote, that Trump is the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln, yes.
Unquote. Jason Alexander played George Costanza on Seinfeld, and I'm going to say what Jason tweeted, and if you're a Seinfeld fan, you'll get the reference. If not, I'm like Frank Zappa. I don't have time to explain it to you. But he tweeted, quote, I'm officially giving up John Voight's car. It clearly doesn't know where it's going. All right. Twinkies Orange Cream Pops by Hostess. They supposedly have a filling that tastes like a creamsicle. All I said was at the end of the first quarter, the score is Twinkies 1, Speedo nothing.
I'm not in on
You don't want to see. I actually went through a Speedo period in my life when I was semi-buff and I looked like a from the side I looked like the letter L.
You want to see somebody in a Speedo?
Oh, hold it up to the camera. Oh, this is
John Conrad in a Speedo.
Let me do this. Let's see if I can get this up here and block the John. There you go. I gotta tell you, Dave showed me that, and I want to just say that I'm sending the therapy bills to you, pal.
You can never unsee that. You can never unsee that.
And it actually showed up on camera there.
Yes.
Oh boy, John likes moonlit walks on the beach and is available for bar mitzvahs and christenings.
Julie said he looked like a transgendered grandma.
Julie gets...
Give her the applause.
Yeah, Julie gets the... not only is that absolutely spot on, because he, in fact, does look like a transgender grandma. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
But what a great name for a band.
Yes.
Okay, I said that too. All right, a Klan rally in Dayton, Ohio. The police were geared. 350 cops were there. 600 protesters showed up. Klan members, 9.
Nice.
Donald was delighted, though, I heard, because they sold 9 new red caps.
Oh, that's too bad, Scott. Yeah, you're on a Donald tear.
It's rim shot. I'm always on a Donald tear. When he finally gets out of there, I promise, I'm making the solemn vow, and this is how I'm hoping to solicit votes from a lot of people, if nothing else, just to get me to shut the hell up. I make a solemn vow on this program right here, and I'll repeat myself every week. The day he's gone, all you're going to hear from me, politically speaking, is the occasional wacky story if something goes bizarre and all the rest of that, because I will be so grateful to get back to America being fucked up the way it is normally.
Well, he's even polling high in CNN polls now, so you might be in for another 6 years.
No, we'll see how that works out. All right,
I kind of like Angry Scott, though.
A couple of ex-wives that would say not so much. All right, and let me finish off with this one, because I'm not going to do the Gordon Lightfoot looks like a cadaver joke. Have you seen the new?
Oh, my God, that was sad.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will give you this. I wrote a quick punchline lyric. The short version is Gordon Lightfoot, the singer, writer, is now 80. He's had a lot of health problems. He's gone through alcoholism, a number of things. I posted an interview with him this week, and the picture of him, he literally looks like somebody from The Walking Dead.
Right. He looks like he died years ago.
He's very emaciated. He's got long, straggly hair. He just looks like a corpse. He looks cadaverous. He seems to be getting along okay, but he just looks cadaverous.
Wasn't he going back out on the road?
I think so.
Oh, my God.
On the Hearst tour. But I immediately, me being creative, I thought, well, let's cash in on this. Okay. So with Gordon singing the songs, because the possibilities are limitless and endless. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone in pretty much all my extremities. In the early morning rain, coffins make a lovely sound.
Oh, Lord.
So, wait. And this one, I wrote my very own self, and I only had to fill in the last line. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead, which explains why I'm sitting here gloomy. And last but certainly least, looking at that picture, it occurred to me that sundown ain't the only thing that's been creeping around those back stairs. All right. And finally, IHOP changed its name last year to IHOB with little b for burgers.
Oh.
It didn't go over that well. They went back to the thing. Now they won't leave it alone. They have changed it again to IHOP with a lowercase p. So it's IHO capital letters, little pp.
Little PP.
I don't know what that's all about, except that they're changing the name. They're going to announce later, I think first of next week, what that's all about. But IHO little p. Turns out I did some research on this. That's actually pronounced. The new name is pronounced IHOPE. Okay, as in IHOPE. They stop putzing around with the fucking name already. And did I mention Gordon Lightfoot looks cadaverous?
Denny Crane.
All right. That's all I got. You got any more?
I got nothing, Scott.
All right. Well, as always, it's a pleasure to waste these hours of our lives together.
I love sitting across from you, Scott, hearing you rant and rave like a crazy person.
And I mean it. I am sincere from the heart. You people that want, if you will vote the way I ask you to vote, which means anything except Donald, I promise, the moment that he's out of there, we will talk about gardening. We'll talk about recipes. Occasionally, a little political.
I'm getting the feeling,
there's a
Scott,
wacky story.
It's going to be 6 more years, buddy.
Well, luckily,
you'll have a lot to talk about.
Luckily for me, I'm not getting any younger. From the Chippewa on down.
Oh.
Everybody be safe. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
The Blab.
The Blab.